This suspect was dying during police interrogation. What if I told you that a young man's life hung in the balance, unnoticed by those sworn to protect and serve? Imagine being in his shoes, almost dying in an interrogation room. Unbeknownst to the police, his account of the events held a truth they failed to recognize. Besides, the specialist remorselessly ridiculed Ryan, who at 18 years old experienced a gunfire twist to his head and a cerebrum drain that compromised his life. These injuries, if left unattended, could have proven fatal. On December 23, 2006, two individuals unlawfully entered Ryan Waller's residence seeking retribution for a previous altercation. As Ryan approached the source of the disturbance, an assailant reached through the door, firing 2 shots directly into his eye with a handgun. Subsequently, Richie and Larry Carver forcibly entered the premises, tragically taking the life of Heather, Ryan's girlfriend, in an instant. The intruders swiftly fled from the scene. Miraculously, Ryan, at the tender age of 18, managed to survive against all odds and eventually communicated with the authorities, who arrived many hours later. Notwithstanding supporting a discharge twisted to the head, he proclaimed total obliviousness in regard to the situation that had happened. Rather than just being quickly taken to the medical clinic, he was rather brought to the close-by police headquarters where he went through a dressing. Prior to the commencement of the interview, Ryan found himself waiting alone in the room, enduring what felt like the most interminable hour he had ever experienced. The excruciating pain tormented him for 20 minutes, leaving him unable to find solace, and to compound his misery, he was restrained to the desk, rendering him incapable of seeking help through vocal expression. Despite Ryan's obvious physical distress, the investigators chose to proceed with the interview, displaying an apparent awareness of the situation. The investigator adapts their communication style to suit Ryan's young age, employing a slightly raised voice, slower speech, and extremely simple language. Nevertheless, the detective dismisses the conspicuous red mark on Ryan's face and his incoherent responses, maintaining the belief that everything is fine and persisting with the interview. Both Ryan and Heather shared a home with a third person, but only Ryan ever revealed that third person's name. There is a chance that he is referring to the same Christina who was here, but in any case, nobody else was at home at any time on the night of the attack. It's incredible that the detective isn't making the connection that Ryan has had a traumatic brain injury, despite the fact that it's very evident. Even if it was only blunt force, as Ryan is trying to convince him, he should still get checked out by a doctor because of the way he is behaving right now. In any case, we all realize that this isn't the means by which things really work. Instead, everything manages to grow even messier in some mysterious way. I'd want to hear this investigator attempt to communicate with us in this circumstance even a fraction as well as Ryan is doing it. Despite the fact that the shot from the handgun is as yet lodged in his head, he is supposed to give a detailed account of the situation that happened, including the characters of those responsible. It does appear to be an incredible tale, which is probably why the officer is just laughing at him by this point. Nevertheless, this does not in any way justify any of the behavior that is now taking place. Even though he is plainly agitated, in agony, and has to get to the hospital, he is still over half an hour away from any type of salvation. Finally, the investigator at least takes into account the possibility that Ryan is experiencing some kind of bodily anguish. He goes outside the room to call for an ambulance and comes back in time to inquire about some further information on the incident. Ryan explains that neither Richie nor his father is linked to Heather and that he has no clue why the three of them attacked him earlier that evening. After waiting for 10 minutes, the fire crew finally comes to check on Ryan and his injury. After a pointless and ultimately lethal questioning that lasted for 56 minutes, Ryan is eventually transferred to the hospital where his blood pressure is checked. Subsequent to doing an assessment on him at the medical clinic, the doctors acknowledged rapidly that his condition was grave and he had, as a matter of fact, been shot in the eye. They additionally revealed to his dad that his child had fostered an infection that could not have possibly happened, assuming he had gotten the fitting clinical consideration. Ryan spent a sum of 35 days in the emergency clinic, during which time he experienced a deficiency in his left eye and part of his brain. To top it all off, he experienced seizures consistently from the time he was released from the medical clinic until 2016, when one of them eventually took his life. Both Richie and Larry received sentences of life imprisonment without the possibility of release for their crimes. The horrible struggle that Ryan had to go through reveals a series of flaws in the management of his case. From the moment he was wounded, detectives demonstrated an astonishing lack of comprehension and empathy for his plight. They continued the interrogation despite the fact that he was clearly showing indications of physical distress, despite the fact that he required immediate medical assistance. Even though the investigator was aware of Ryan's head injury and the horrifying occurrence that had just taken place, it is extremely unnerving that he did not grasp how serious Ryan's condition was and failed to make the connection between the two factors. Even though he had a bullet lodged into his brain, Ryan was able to verbalize the sequence of events, which is evidence of his tremendous resilience and his commitment to pursuing justice. Because of the delay in bringing Ryan to the hospital, his health, which was already quite serious, deteriorated much more. In the event that he approached ideal clinical consideration, it is conceivable that a portion of the drawn-out impacts, for example, the cerebrum harm and the seizures, may have been forestalled out and out. The infection that developed as a direct result of a lack of sufficient treatment just added insult to injury and served to further draw attention to the neglect that had taken place. During the entirety of this terrifying ordeal, Ryan's voice was ignored and his pain was not taken seriously. The very mechanism that was supposed to safeguard him did not work properly for him at any point. It is a reminder that apathy and neglect may have a huge effect on a person's life, which is a reminder that breaks my heart to think about. The events of that fatal night in 2006 continue to have a negative impact on the people closest to Ryan. His untimely death in 2016 serves as a sobering reminder of the lingering impacts of trauma and the critical requirement for more awareness and assistance for those who have survived such horrifying crimes. The horrendous occasion should go about as a reminder of the different policing as well as overall set of laws all in all. In order to guarantee that victims of violent crimes, particularly those with significant injuries, receive the timely medical treatment and care that they so badly require, it is imperative that processes and protocols be subjected to a comprehensive investigation. The story of Ryan is one of exceptional fortitude despite impossible difficulties. It fills in as a convenient sign of the meaning of having sympathy and empathy, as well as the need to monitor and help others. May his heritage act as a wake-up call that each life should be treated with the poise and care that it merits, and as an impetus for change in the world. The mishandling of Ryan's case highlights the urgent need for reform and improvement in the criminal justice system. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the importance of empathy, understanding, and proper medical attention for victims of violent crimes. It underscores the necessity for law enforcement officials to be adequately trained in recognizing signs of trauma and providing appropriate support. Furthermore, Ryan's story brings to light the systemic failures that allowed such neglect and disregard for his well-being to occur. It emphasizes the need for comprehensive reforms in the management and investigation of criminal cases, ensuring that victims receive the necessary medical care and support from the outset. The legacy of Ryan's struggle should inspire a collective effort to address the flaws in the system and advocate for change. It should serve as a rallying cry to prioritize the rights and well-being of victims, particularly those who have endured traumatic experiences.